Hello and welcome to the Stellar Way for Course Creators. This is a YouTube channel for you to start to learn how to design, create, and launch an online course. Each week I look into one of those areas so that you can start on your course creation. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to see a new video, let me know as well. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and hit the little bell button so that you're notified each week when a new video is uploaded. In today's video, I am looking into what a course curriculum entails. So we'll be looking into 3 elements of a course curriculum, and I am going to provide 3 tips on how you can create your course curriculum. Firstly, I would like to also note that last week there was a video, which I'll put in the link below, that talks about why a course curriculum is important. If you haven't watched that yet, that may be a good place to start. Okay, let's jump into 3 elements of a course curriculum. So here's an example of a course curriculum that I used last week in the video. Again, you would have that link to the video below. Now this is a completed course curriculum on a course that I am currently creating, which is about using agile methodologies in your courses. Now we're not going to go into what my course is about or what it includes. Rather, I'm going to be pulling apart an existing course curriculum to show you the 3 most important elements. This template that I have here is actually my template that I use and I created and I provide to my students and to my clients. If you would like access to it, you can download it for free as well in the comments below. Now, when you do receive this is completely blank, so it can be quite overwhelming to start to fill in a blank template without understanding how to use it. So on top of this YouTube video and the previous YouTube videos that I've discussed course curriculums, you also have access to how to use this template here, which goes through some instructional videos as well as going through what goals, learning outcomes, and competencies are, which we're going to have a look at today. So you have so much information at your fingertips available for you. So the 3 important elements that I want to demonstrate today, which I'm going to write on our little Jamboard here. The first one is one course goal, right? That is one important element, that you have a course goal. And it is really important that this course goal is specific, that it's not ambiguous, and that there is only one course goal. You can easily get carried away in accidentally sneaking in more goals into your course. By having so many goals that can be ambiguous, it can also put you in a situation where you are overwhelming your students by having so much content that kind of goes in different directions. And it can be leaving your students to feel quite overwhelmed. So make sure that you only have one course goal and that course goal is specific. Now, once we do have that course goal, our next point is to start to break that course goal down into learning outcomes. Now, I recommend that our learning outcomes that you have between 3 to 5 learning outcomes. Anything more, anything beyond that 7 mark, which is the maximum, can become quite overwhelming. Again, causing you to put too much information into the course that then distracts your students from achieving the overall goal. You may then ask me, well, Kat, what do I do when I do have a large course? What about universities and schools that are creating courses? Well, for those large courses that we have, they are divided into bundles. They are divided into subjects. So rather than looking at a Bachelor of Business and saying, well, Kat told me to only put in 3 to 5 learning outcomes, rather it's looking at the subjects or the modules or the bundles or the chapters, whatever you want to call them, that sits within a larger course. And then within that subject, you then have 3 to 5 learning outcomes. So if I was to just look at, let's say we'll just look at 3 learning outcomes. So I'm going to write in learning outcome 1. and then I'll duplicate that, copy, paste, and of course this one will be learning outcome 2, and the final one, learning outcome 3. So here we only have 3 learning outcomes. Perfect, this is great. So with each of these learning outcomes, what they are, consider these as the steps that the students will take to be able to achieve the overall goal. So here it's really important to start to understand who your students are. Start to understand their past experience, start to understand what they've already tried, start to understand the skills that they have, because that will help you to understand how you get them from A to B. Meaning A is where they are now, their current experiences, to B, which is their course goal. So that helps you to then write down the learning outcomes. For example, for my course, if we jump back over here, we can say that my course is to launch a successful online course without the overwhelm, stress, or fear. And I could say, well, that's a huge course because I need to teach people what an online course is, how they can market an online course. I need to teach them about how to conduct videos or how to create videos. But the students that I work with, they already know what online courses are. They already know who the audience is. They already know how to market to their audience. They're just now wanting to create an online course. Now that's the people that I specifically work with, right? So that helps me when I come over here, that helps me to create those 3 steps because I'm not providing my students with information that they already know. So once I have that goal, then I have the learning outcomes. I then create competencies. Now this is a huge topic that I do recommend that you have a look at understanding your client's competencies or understand your students' competencies, which is one of my YouTube videos. Again, I will pop that below and you can start to understand competencies even further. I will go through it in this video, but very briefly. So let's say for learning outcome 1, I have 2 competencies. For learning outcome 2, I'm going to have 5 competencies. So again, I'm just going to put that in here and I'm going to write competency 1. What we have now is our competencies. And when I go back to my template here, competencies can fall under knowledge, skills, and abilities. And what I want to provide you here, let's go into our first tip while we're on our competencies. The first tip that I have for you is to start to use a method of design learning or learning design, which I like to use Bloom's taxonomy. Now I go through this through my courses and I talk about this with my clients. I can't go into it right now in such a short video, but you will see that I do this in my other YouTube videos. The important part here, the most important part is that I start to identify particular verbs that I use that help me to create competencies. And we'll look at this soon when I go into showing you my examples. So here I start, okay, well, what is the competency? Is it for someone to have knowledge and understanding, or is it someone to start to apply their skills, or is it for someone to start to build their abilities through evaluating and creating? And as I start to understand which category it falls into, I can then better design the competencies. Now, very briefly here, Bloom's taxonomy talks about how we have a progress to learning, that our learning journey is progressive. And we first need to have the understanding, the comprehension, the knowledge, before we start to apply this comprehension to our skills. We start to build our skills by applying and analyzing. And then once we've had the opportunity to understand, apply, analyze, we then start to evaluate and create. And that's when we're starting to form our abilities. So very briefly, an example I use is for coffee. You can see this in one of my other YouTube videos when I talk about competencies. But let's talk about a barista. A barista will first have the knowledge and understanding about different types of coffee, about different types of milk, that best froth, by what the weather does to coffee beans and how to best grind coffee beans depending on the humidity, etc., etc. And then they would start to take that knowledge and apply it by practicing. So then they move to this point here where they're starting to actually use a coffee machine. And they're starting to go, okay, well, I remember from my knowledge that today there's humidity, so I have to do some adjustment. Maybe they have to go back and use Google because they don't have that ability yet to automatically know what to do, but they're starting to apply their knowledge. They're starting to analyze situations with what they know and what they've practiced to start to make coffees. Maybe at this point they're making one coffee at a time, right? Maybe they're making a latte, then they're making a cappuccino one at a time. And then once they've practiced that enough and they've learned from their mistakes they've made, they then move through evaluating and creating. And at this stage might be when your barista is able to take multiple orders. They're able to make multiple coffees at once, as well as remembering that they have to go and wait on tables, take orders, finalize bills, for example. So they're starting to combine their skills that they've learned, combine their understanding to form new abilities so that they can effectively be a barista within a busy cafe, right? So that is a progression of learning. And when we are building our competencies, we need to do the same. Now, the reason why I've broken it down like this is what helps us move into tip 2. Okay, so tip 2, if I draw a triangle, for example, it's going to be a bit of a wonky triangle. Not a wonky triangle, but not perfect. So let's just go like this, and hopefully I can send that to the back. Yes. Okay. The point here is that when we look at our goals, our learning outcomes, and our competencies, we look at it like a triangle where we start with one, and as we go down, we're building and building and building, and we're diving deeper into breaking our course goal into more specific competencies and learning outcomes. So we're becoming more specific as we go down this triangle. So what we would see if I just draw a line here, sorry, that was an awful line, but that's the best I can do. So our course goal, we've broken our course goal into 3 different learning outcomes. So that helps us go to level 1. Well, from level 1 to level 2. Then from our learning outcomes, we've then broken this down into competencies. Now, depending on what your learning outcome is, depends on how many competencies you will have, for example. And then this one as well. Right, so we're breaking those down. And what this helps us to achieve, this tip of why we should look at it like a triangle, is because when we come to choosing our lessons or our activities or even our assessments, when it comes time to choosing what will be best useful for our students, for example, a video, a podcast, audio, presentation, whatever it may be, when we decide what's best, we link these directly to the competency. So we say, for my students to be able to build this competency, what lesson do I need? And by doing this triangle, right, we're breaking down our goal into smaller chunks, right? We're going into this learning outcome competencies. We then, when we're choosing our lessons, we then go back up the triangle. So we say that the lessons that we're choosing or the activities or the assessments that we're choosing helps our students to be able to build this competency. Now, when our students have built, let me change my pen color. Once our students have achieved competency 1 and competency 2, once they've achieved those 2, then and only then can they be successful in achieving learning outcome 1. Now, once they've achieved all of them, right? So once they've completed, let's do blue, once they've completed all of these lessons and all of these activities, then they've been successful in achieving all of these competencies. Once they've been successful in achieving all of those competencies, they're then successful in achieving all of these learning outcomes. So once they've combined achieved all the competencies, then they've in turn combined achieved all learning competencies, and I'm sure you can guess it, that then means that they will achieve the overall course goal. So By breaking this down and looking at this as a triangle, it helps you as the course creator to effectively choose the right lessons and activities and or assessments so that you can support your students to achieve these competencies, in turn achieve the outcomes, and then finally achieve their course goal. So that was tip 2, to make sure you have it in a triangle. Now the final tip that I would like to leave you with today is to make sure, I'm going to come back over here, I haven't shown you this yet, but I want to show you here that this is an example of a course goal, which is directly from this curriculum. I've just copied and pasted over. It makes it a little bit easier when we look at it like a structure. So I have one course goal, one learning outcome, and our competencies. And I'm actually going to give you a sneaky extra tip here. Remember when we looked at these here, this Bloom's taxonomy? In my learning outcome, I have written a learning outcome such as understand the benefits of agile project management. Another learning outcome is to illustrate the different versions. This word illustrate, I might need to change that because that one can be used in different steps. I'm going to use create for this example. Okay, so the first one is understanding, the second learning outcome is creating. Now if we go back over here, we can see that the understanding falls within this category and that creating falls underneath this category. Now in Bloom's taxonomy there is 6 levels. I combine level 1 and 2 into knowledge, level 3 and 4 into skills, and level 5 and 6 into abilities. So these 2 are knowledge, skills, and abilities. So my tip is, when I write an outcome that says understand the benefits of agile project management, then I know that the competencies are only going to be competencies that fall underneath these first 2, because my students are only learning something so that they have the understanding. They don't need to apply any skills, nor do they need to start to form abilities. However, here I've said create different versions. So creating is our final one here. So I need to make sure that I provide opportunities for my students to start to understand and have the knowledge if they don't already, then have the opportunities to apply their skills and analyze situations to build skills if they haven't built them already. They might have built them in an earlier module in an earlier course. And then finally, they can then start to create. So that's what helps me to identify the different levels. I don't at all, never, ever, ever, let's jump over here, never, ever do I just go, okay, I'm going to have 2 competencies in learning outcome 1, and I'll have 5 competencies. I don't choose randomly like that. It depends on what the outcome is, what that verb in the outcome is, as to how many competencies I have. So by using Bloom's taxonomy, I am creating a very action-based course curriculum by making sure that I'm focusing on what the students will have the ability to do, which is the final tip of my video today. The final tip of my video is when you are writing this, when you're writing your course curriculum, ask yourself this sentence here. My students will have the ability to use that for your course goal, use that for your learning outcomes, and use that for your competencies. You can see that by using this sentence, I am starting off each one of my statements with the right verb. Otherwise, if you don't use this, you can easily fall into a pattern of writing what your students will be doing or learning in the time of your lesson. For example, you might say, okay, a learning outcome is that they're going to be Googling the right marketing strategies for their business, as an example. Now that is a task that they will be actioning within a lesson or within an activity, but it's not what they will be able to do. It's not a competency, it's not an outcome, it's not a goal. It's an activity. So this helps us, by asking ourselves this sentence, it helps us to not fall into that trap of writing anything that's not action-based. So I hope that that was helpful for you in learning how to build your course curriculum. If you do have any questions about the 3 elements and the 3 tips that I shared, let me know below in the comments. And if you would like me to demonstrate a different area of course creation, let me know and I'll be happy to demonstrate that to you in a future video. Like I said in the beginning, I upload a video every single week to YouTube on course creation, so please subscribe to the channel, it will help me a lot, and also make sure you hit the notification button so you know when a new video has been uploaded. Okay, until next time, happy course creation. Bye for now.